Duflo, and today I'm going to show you how to create a workflow specifically for posting to LinkedIn. What we're going to do is we're going to create an automation taking you through content in Google Chat that then gets rewritten by our agent specifically in the right tone of voice exactly to our brief and then gets posted to LinkedIn. I want to say excuse me in advance because my dog is in the background, so if there's any noise, you will know exactly what it is. Anyway, so without further ado, we obviously start with our trigger, and I mentioned for us it is Google Chat. Now, how this works is someone within our team might notice a piece of content, say, for example, an article, and they think that our followers over on LinkedIn might want to hear our take on it. And instead of me having to painstakingly rewrite it, pulling out the insights and pulling out, ensuring it's in our brand voice and pulling out everything that's interesting to our audience, I can be sure that an agent will be able to handle it for me. So this is the first trigger. As I said, it's a new message in the space. We want to make sure it's configured to the right specific chat. For us, that's social posts. And we can't just assume that anything that we put in there, the agent's going to know what to filter. We have to set a condition. So I'll come back to that in a minute. And I mentioned the AI steps, the agentic AI step, and that's here. We'll move on to that. That's who's going to rewrite the content for us. And then we want to make sure that we can then post on LinkedIn. Now, interestingly, we could set this up in the agent step, but the reason that I don't is just I want to limit the scope that the agent is handling, just to ensure that we keep that really high level of accuracy. So what we want to do is create a simple organization post. So this is the bare bones, and we don't need MCP mode today. This is the bare bones of the workflow. I'm just configuring it so it's with the right organization there. And let's get into it and ensure it's completely set up correctly. So we set up the trigger, the condition. Of course, as I said, we don't want anything that we put in that chat to be broadcast. So we need to make sure that we're dealing with the text in the chat. And the condition is if it contains LinkedIn. So I know, and the team knows, if they write LinkedIn and then share the article, this is what the agent is going to deal with. Now, our agent, if any of you guys are familiar with prompt engineering, you will love the Duflo agent. It has everything that you might want to consider already there for you in this form. So I'm going to call this agent our LinkedIn agent. And that's especially important if you want conditions where the content goes to a different agent, say, for example, someone to deal with Facebook, but we will not talk about that today. So you will know that it's really important that you set an identity. So who do you want your AI to role play as? In our case, I would love it if they're behaving as a content strategist for, you can tell it's late in the day, right, for Duflo. Okay, and of course we have to set their primary goal. And for us, we want them to rewrite the content after the specific text, the condition that we've set. And here I want to be really, really specific about the fact that they are writing it for LinkedIn. So here I've just pasted a message I wrote earlier so you don't have to sit down while I slowly type. So it's suitable for the platform of LinkedIn. We want to be really specific about the structure. So I'm asking it to structure it with a hook, an insight, and include invitation for engagement at the end. Ensure it's succinct, natural in tone, and clearly from Duflo's voice. Now, how on earth would it know what our voice is unless we include that information in the background information? So consider this the context, like further context that you want it to reference. Here, I often paste brand guidelines. I will talk about our website. I'll give it the website as a reference. And then if we move on to these advanced settings here, you will want to fill in the do's and don'ts because, for example, you don't want them to be referencing the instructions or their reasoning in the output. You would include this here. So don't include your reasoning or instructions or reference instructions in your output. But you might also want to include things like only include one rhetorical question, use a maximum of 3 emojis. You might ask it not to use M dashes because there's a lot of hatred for M dashes over on social media at the moment, that kind of thing. That's what you want to include in the do's and don'ts. Whether you want hashtags included, you could include that here. Now, the ethical and safety constraints. Here it's got some information about what we should include here. For me, because we are sharing an article, I like to make sure that the agent knows that we want to reference the source and we want to make it clear that we're paraphrasing, because we are not a news organization, we're not a journalist, and we're not responsible for what's been reported on. So if anything's kind of like inflammatory or could be defamatory, we want to just make sure that we're covering ourselves. And so I would include that here in the ethical and safety constraints. So if the source is an article, please reference this and ensure it is clear we are paraphrasing. There we go. That is exactly what I'd want to ensure we're covering here in the agent. And then finally, for our LinkedIn step, I mentioned we won't use MCP mode today. We just want to make sure that the output is the result and not the thoughts. That's really important here. So there we go. And that is it. So next time someone posts in the Google Chat social room and they post an article and they preface it with the LinkedIn condition, that will get filtered through the workflow so that our agent can rewrite it and handle it, and it will get posted out onto our LinkedIn. And the proof is in the pudding. So go over to our LinkedIn and have a look at what our agent has handled for me today. Thanks for watching.